Seventh grade, welcome back. We are learning about 2-point perspective for our next project. So today we're going to be doing some practice. You have this worksheet and we're going to practice using 2-point perspective. We did a 1-point perspective project last year, the names that all went to one vanishing point. So we are expanding on that idea in order to learn how to draw to 2 vanishing points in order to help create depth. So let's go over the important terms that are on the top of this paper first. So for the first one, linear perspective, a technique used by artists to help give depth to objects. So we do have experience with linear perspective. We're just changing some of the specifics. All right, the second one, horizon line. That is where the sky and the earth meet, and that's also the location of the vanishing point. And the vanishing point is where lines in linear perspective are going to meet, where things look as though they are receding into the distance. They look as though those lines are vanishing at the vanishing point. So hopefully that's self-explanatory. And then lastly, 2-point perspective, the technique that we are specifically looking at. All lines are drawn to one of 2 vanishing points in the drawing. So again, last year when we studied 1-point perspective, everything was being drawn to one vanishing point. This time we have 2. So for the directions, use 2-point perspective to create depth in the following examples. Label the vanishing points and the horizon line. Let's do that part first. So the horizon line is stretching horizontally across the page. I am simply going to mark that with HL, and you can feel free to abbreviate that as well. And then we know that the horizon line is the location of the vanishing points as well. The vanishing points in 2-point perspective are located at either end of the horizon line. And again, feel free to abbreviate. I'm going to put VP down for those. All right, so we are going to draw 3 different examples of 2-point perspective, but they change. That's why we have 3 examples. They change according to where they are in relation to the horizon line. We're going to start with the one in the middle first. All right, so we have a vertical line. Every object that you draw in 2-point perspective is going to start with a vertical line. This is the part of the object that is closest to you. From there, we're going to draw from the top and bottom of each line to both vanishing points. So let's start at the top first. So from the top to the vanishing point, make sure that they align. And then from the top to the second vanishing point. All right, there we go. So let's move down to the bottom. So we have the bottom of our vertical, also drawing over to the first vanishing point, and then from the bottom over to the second vanishing point. So you have something that looks a little bit like a stretched out kite. Now I want you to pretend that this is a building or a box, and this is the edge that we're looking at that's closest to us. But we don't just have this infinite building going off to either side. We need to create sides of the building. So just like this point in the middle is vertical, we want to draw in some vertical sides of the building as well. And this is where you can change it up a little bit. I'm going to choose to have this side this wide, and I have a vertical drawn, vertical just like the line in the middle. Maybe my line, or maybe my side on the right is going to be just a tiny bit longer right here. All right, so in case you're having trouble seeing this, you don't have to do this for this worksheet, but just so you can see, you erase the lines that you don't need anymore. So my box, the thing that I just created, and I'm gonna go over it darker, is right here. All right, so hopefully you can see that we have the edge of this building or box, we have the side on the left, and we have the side on the right. Let's move on to another example. Let's start with the one that's above the horizon line. Now this one's going to look a little bit different because our first example was on the horizon line. Our second one is above. So because it's almost as though we're looking up at it, in addition to seeing the 2 sides, the left and the right, we're also going to see the bottom. All right, so first let's start Whoops. So first let's start with the lines from the top. So from the top of our vertical line, we're going to draw down to each vanishing point. All right, so from the top down to the left, and from the top down to the right. And guys, we are going to be drawing through the first box that we drew. That's totally fine. Feel free to do that. All right, and then bottom of the vertical line, down to the left, and down to, I'm actually going to draw behind it, and down to the right. Okay, so we have something that's very similar to what we created before. So what we're going to do right now is once again decide how wide are these sides going to be. So I'm going to draw a vertical line right here, vertical to match the middle, and then a vertical line right here, again, vertical to match the middle. And this is how we're going to create the bottom. All right, so I'm looking at my vertical line that's over here on the left, going all the way down where it meets up with my, this is called a sight line. I'm going to take this point right here, and I'm actually going to draw to the opposite vanishing point. I know, it just got crazy confusing, but this is how we create the bottom. All right, on the other side, again, my right vertical, I'm going to stop where it hits that sight line. And this time I'm going to the opposite vanishing point. Again, down to the left. All right, so in case you're having trouble seeing the box that I just created, bear with me. All right, so we have the left side, the right side, and then also the bottom, all in perspective. All right, so now that we've done the box above the horizon line, let's take a look at the one below the horizon line. So again, just to have you take a guess here, this box was on the horizon line and we could only see two sides. This one was above the horizon line. We're looking up at it so we could see the bottom. So if we're drawing a box that's below the horizon line and we're looking down at it, which extra side do you think we're going to see? If you guessed the top, you are correct. All right, so same thing as before. Let's start with the top of our vertical line and draw to both vanishing points. All right, top of the vertical to the left, top of the vertical to the right, and then the bottom, bottom of the vertical to the left, and bottom of the vertical to the right. All right, so just like we did before, let's pick the outside edges of our building. So I'm gonna draw a vertical line right here for the left side, and I'm going to draw a vertical line right here for the right side. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. They have to be straight up and down vertical, just like the line in the middle. These should not be tilted. That will not be accurate otherwise. All right, so I am going to kind of bubble in those points where our verticals meet with the sight line. So on the left, I'm gonna line it up with that point, and then we're gonna draw over to the opposite vanishing point. We have one. All right, and then same thing. My point on the right is going to go to the opposite vanishing point. All right, so again, if you need some help seeing the box that I just drew right there, bear with me while I erase these extra lines. And I know I'm not quite erasing everything on the edges, that's okay. All right, so we have our left side, our right side, and our top, since this one is below the horizon line. All right, so before you turn this in, make sure that your vanishing points are still labeled, didn't get accidentally erased while we were doing this, and make sure that your horizon line is still labeled as well.